listening to your talk makes me, I'm wondering, the other folks that are up there, I mean, how did you get into your music? You know, because Eric obviously was drawn into the folk.
You want me to sit down in a second, and we're going to progress into that whole thing. But so okay, I have a bunch of other pictures of those early times, and so maybe at the end we get together in the back, and anybody who wants to look at these, I'd be more than happy to show them to you. But it's been a pleasure talking about this because it brings back, like I said before, it brings back the excitement of all those years. I mean, from age 5 and 6 of hearing Pete, and I can visualize him singing like this, you know, when I was 5 years old, and up to all through actually my recording career, which is about 30 some odd years and many thousands of sessions. So I stretched through a lot of this that we're listening to today, these stories. So I'm anxious to hear some of them too. But thanks all for coming and listening. Thanks.
I know that originally, I know, like I say, Happy Trout was real keen to be here, and I'm hoping that Eric can kind of interact because I feel like these three know each other a lot better, and I'd love it if Eric can interact. But Tommy, you actually were not born in New York, but what makes New York City special? And you know, talking about starting that young, did you ever go and check out Washington Square Park on Sundays?
Yes, I did. I was very young at the time, so I couldn't participate. But my brother brought home from the library the Weavers at Carnegie Hall album, and for the next 2 years, that's all I listened to. So I love that music. I love Pete Seeger and Bill Hayes and everybody. And yeah, we would go to Washington Square Park, and I would watch that. Unfortunately, when I got to be old enough to join in, it was no more. It just ended, so that was the end of the era. That was really sad. I started with folk music, and then the Beatles came out. About the same time they stopped the music at Washington Square Park. Everybody plugged in, including some of the folk music players at the time. And all these things are really connected. And I'm reading Tony's book. It's like, it's a book of my life. I mean, everything in it, from the Latin, it starts with the Latin music and everything. When I was a little kid in Hungary, hey mambo, mambo, I mean, it was just, you know, it's all there, you know, this was our life. And New York, I guess, being, that's where we arrived in 1956 during the Hungarian Revolution. I was Hungarian. And it came at the dawning of rock and roll also. And in those days, they would play everything on the radio, you know, from Frank Sinatra, Harry Belafonte, to Jerry Lee Lewis, Fats Domino, Little Richard. They would play everything. You could hear everything. It was all AM radio, but it was just wonderful, amazing stuff on the radio at that time. And there was no real categorization, you know, I didn't sense any. And it was just a wonderful, marvelous time. It was just New York radio, so I don't know how it was the rest of the country, but it was just an amazing time then.
And for Tommy and Fred, you know, I've got that little story in there that kind of got taken out of the book when we were trying to get it down to size about the Tangerine Puppet show at Forest Hills High School. Did we kind of get that one right? I mean, there is a fantastic picture in some other books of the Tangerine Puppets with a young Johnny Ramone and a young Tommy and the other guys in that band. They're all like 16, 17 years old, and they're but I mean, Forest Hills High School, Christ, you know, it's not just the Ramones came out, because Fred was there and other people, and you're from Queens as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first up, Fred, did I get that? Does that sound? Did we get the story roughly right?
Almost.
I mean, this stuff is hard to get.
I just want to clear up one fact. That,
sure.
I wasn't in the audience. I was on stage. I was actually the drummer for the Tangerine Puppets for that one song.
Okay. Oh, for the one song for Can't Get No Satisfaction?
Yeah. It was our 10-minute version of Satisfaction.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to end it, so I kept going.
So you were a drummer?
No, I know
you were a guitarist?
Yeah, I was a lead guitar player.
Right, and you ended up being drummer later on, of course, and you ended up being bass player, and that's how it goes, I guess.
It's a crazy world.
Yeah. Right. And Elda, you come from Queens as well, and well, we know how old you are because you just told us. So I'm trying to think, you know, that point that they played that show, gosh, at school in 1966. Can somebody do the maths? 43. You'd have been 17. So,
yeah,
so you'd have been the same age as them.
I was already in Manhattan. These guys were slow movers. I was already in Manhattan. I actually, what you were saying about New York and the feeling of New York, when you play in New York, you're playing. When you go to play anyplace else, you're going to play. Because New York City is the most amazing, creative inspiration. There is so much going on there. There is so much to draw from in New York. And it's an amazing thing because it also draws people who are creative to it. My father was born in Italy, but he grew up in Astoria, and he gave Tony Bennett his last 5 cents to get on the subway to go get a record deal. Okay, I mean that's how intense and how together people in New York interact. I mean you can see threads through everybody. You know, like Fred was in my band. How many times we hung out and with the Ramones, how fantastic they were. And Tish and Snooki, who are here tonight, they also not only played with me on recordings and have their own thing. They're still constantly performing, and they were in that Angel and Snake band that Blondie had.
That's right, of course, which I didn't get to. You know, I introduced you in terms of how you got introduced to the scene about getting into Max's, and if anything sort of spoke to this kind of like everything mixing. There's that period in the mid '60s. I spent like I felt like a year writing about 1965. I couldn't seem to get out of it because so much went on in that year, and I sort of thought I was getting to the end of the year and could start a new chapter, and then that would be when Andy Warhol saw the Velvet Underground, or that would be when Mickey Ruskin opened Max's. And Max's does seem like, you know, it's not just about rock and roll, it's a place where people just sort of meet from all these different wavelengths. And I know Tommy, you know, went to Max's a lot, and I don't know, Fred, did you? And Eric, I don't know.
I played there.
You played there?
My Deliverance band played Max's Kansas City, opening for Waylon Jennings.
Oh, God.
He was our ragtag band at the bitter end, 1973. And this was taken at like 3 o'clock in the morning after 4 shows on a Saturday. So we looked really, really out of it. And this became our publicity picture anyway. But opening for Waylon Jennings, that was pretty freaky.
Well, culturally, Max's was important because it was near the factory where Andy Warhol had his thing going. And Andy Warhol was a major influence on the artistic culture that became, well, alternative music, punk rock, whatever. It was just basically created sort of the feel of the era. And he was a major influence on me, and I think everybody else. And yeah, we hung out at Max's. I mean, I was a little kid trying to get into Max's, and Mickey Ruskin would say, well, you can come in on weekdays, you know, and then when you become a regular, then, you know, it was that kind of place, you know. And so that's what we did, you know. And I mean, I don't know, it's kind of strange to get excited about a restaurant bar. But this was a special restaurant bar, you know. It was probably, for a while, the hippest place in the world, if that means anything, I'm not sure. But originally, you know, fine artists went there. Mickey Ruskin would feed them. And
you'd see Truman Capote at the bar.
Yeah, it was,
you know,
that kind of place.
Larry Rivers. You saw artists, musicians, writers, actors. De Niro and all those guys used to hang out. As a matter of fact, De Niro was in one of Jackie Curtis's plays.
And you know.